Today I'm taking you with me on our last trip within Japan from back in May when Melly and I travelled from Tokyo to Kyoto, Osaka, Tottori and Kurashiki to see another side of Japan that we hadn't explored yet. This was one of the last weeks of our 3-month stay in Japan, and we had long before marked 7 days in the calendar for this trip. We left Tokyo on a wet, grey day, which wasn't exactly the grand sunny spring weather we had hoped for, but nevertheless we were very excited. Of course, I had brought along some film to shoot. I had my trusty Pentax K1000 with me and the Olympus Mu 170 VF. I loaded a roll of Kodak Color Plus and Fuji Color 100 to start off with. Our first stop was Kyoto, where we had booked to stay 3 nights in a cute Airbnb which had this super sweet entrance that I photographed. Otherwise I didn't shoot much yet, but I couldn't resist to photograph this scene of the person on the right holding their lunch and this fallen bicycle behind them. While waiting for a moment at this crossing, a couple scenes developed right in front of me, and so I shot this photo, which is fairly simple, not particularly special, yet nevertheless, I really like the way the 3 people, each on their 2-wheelers, look together in this composition. Here's a random shot I got while walking around this area. This guy was walking my way and had such a big, confident walk and aura that I wanted to capture. I would love to have included the whole body, but was a bit too late, but it's not bad. On this afternoon, we began exploring random areas close to our accommodation, not the Kyoto hotspots, and it was really interesting, but I didn't shoot much yet, which however was mostly due to the lighting that just didn't look that good. However, once we came to this canal, I spotted 2 people admiring flowers, and I thought it was a really cute scene. I was able to capture this wholesome moment as one friend gave the other a flower. I'm very happy with this photo. Then, after some more walking, we realised that we're not going to get far if we keep walking at this pace and decided to rent bicycles. Here are some photos I took while riding the bicycle through the streets. I really like how this shot captures this peaceful corner as a biker whizzes by about to vanish behind the wall. Here's another shot I got, which I'm so happy with. While riding the bike, we passed these 2 and I stopped for a moment just to photograph them. They seemed like they'd just coincidentally bumped into each other and were having a brief chat. I love the happy expressions I was able to capture. This feels to me like a decent documentation of the ordinary people of Kyoto. Later in the day, we made it to the slightly busier, more central area of Kyoto along the Kamogawa, this river. I adore cities that include streams of water, and this area of Kyoto had a couple streams here and there that were so cute. Here I even spotted one of those cranes that you see chilling around Kyoto a lot. This is another shot that I really like. We were passing a couple teenagers, and these 2 boys are definitely living through their hip-hop phase, and I spontaneously shot a photo with the Olympus which also fired a flash. They loved that and asked me to take another one of them posing, and that's how I got this shot. I love how this is another photograph that documents the people of Kyoto, but it's a completely different type of people which adds some diversity to the photos. And then just a couple minutes later, I spotted this delivery worker taking a break and reading the newspaper just like some detective in a children's TV show, which I found very amusing. So I shot this spontaneous photo while walking, but didn't feel like I had really captured the scene yet, so I shot this other angle too. I mentioned before that you often see elegant cranes slowly walking around in Kyoto, and this one was certainly the star of the scene on this morning, with 3 photographers including me trying to get the best angle of its beauty. This is the photo I shot, and of course my aim wasn't actually to shoot a close-up portrait of the crane, even though that would have been cool too, but I wanted to document the scene that the crane triggered here. I love how the crane stoically just stares across the river while people gather around it, as if the crane were a celebrity. After powering up with a breakfast, we rented bicycles again to ride all the way to the edge of town where my dad had told me about his favorite temple in Kyoto. It was quite the distance to go, but a great way to further explore the lesser known parts of Kyoto, and of course I shot photos on the way. I enjoy the irony of this shot with the do not enter sign. The temple was pretty remote in a forest and there were only a few people there. I spotted this guy writing something, I don't know what, but I liked the scene inside this room, so after getting this wide shot, I asked if I may take a closer up shot of him writing and got this photo, which I think turned out so cool. What I love here is something that I've noticed in general in Japan, which is clutter. It seems to me that the Japanese aren't really into minimalism and prefer a bit more clutter. I've seen this in households, in offices and such. However, maybe this has to do with the on average much smaller spaces many people here live in, which condenses the same amount of things on less space, hence appearing cluttered. I don't know. Anyway, in this photograph, I love all the details we can look at apart from the cool subject. After cycling back towards the city centre, we decided to visit a couple spots we had found on Google Maps, and then here we were making our way to the so-called Philosopher's Path, which is supposed to be a nice place to walk. What we found, however, was all the more fun. It turns out that this place is the home of many cats that don't really belong to anyone, but the people of the neighborhood just take care of them and feed them every day. We met this guy who I chatted with for some time, and he told me about this and a bit of his life story. It was a really cool and wholesome experience, and I love the photographs I was able to shoot of him and the cat that decided to just take a nap next to him. After walking the Philosopher's Path, the sun was already pretty low, but we still wanted to visit one more place, one of the many Kyoto hotspots that you will for sure recognize if you ever looked through some Kyoto photographs. Of course, I shot a couple photos which all turned out pretty good looking, I find, because the lighting just past sunset was so beautiful. Also, an interesting thing we discovered, and that you can now see too, is that it was so much emptier than expected. But I suspect that is because we were so late and most tourists were on the hunt for dinner by this time. All the shops were already closed, so maybe this is a decent tip for you if you ever want to visit this area with less people around. Come during dinner time. Here, we were about to leave the area, but I spotted this taxi and the driver seemed to be just waiting around, and so I thought it'd be so cool to get a photograph of the driver, so I mustered up all my courage and went up to him. To my delight, he immediately agreed to me taking a portrait, and so with the Olympus and its flash, I shot this photo, which I think is so cool. The photo is this typical point and shoot with a flash look, which isn't fancy, but I still really like it, and I'm so happy I was able to add yet another photograph of a local to my collection. Then later we made our way into the city centre to the district where you can find a lot of shops and other activities. It's the kind of place that is still quite lively later in the evening. Equipped with the Olympus Mu and the built-in flash, I shot 2 photos in this area. This one is cool, but feels a bit unintentional. The composition appears a little random and I'm not sure what to think of the distractingly bright glowing signs. But then I shot this. This photo, I think, is wonderful. The flash feels balanced and puts a strong emphasis on the subjects in the foreground, but doesn't eliminate the background. I love the fast whizzing feeling of the photograph, which I think comes from the combination of freezing the subject's motion but having movement and motion blur in the background. I must honestly admit this was not some intentional technique of mine, it just happened. The camera exposed the way it did, so I consider myself very lucky. And this makes me feel even luckier. The sponsor of today's video is Whitewall, who are the place to go if you want to produce high quality prints of your work. They reached out to me and asked whether there are any photographs I would like to print with them, and so after chatting they made me 3 framed prints. 2 photographs from this video, this one and this shot, which you'll see later in the video, and also this photo from the trip to Nagano, which I showed you a couple weeks ago. They claim to make high quality prints, and I can fully approve that statement. These are beautiful. They offer their customers advice by the experts in the shop, so you can either have an online meeting with them, which I did, or even walk into one of their many shops in person. They even have a store here in Austria, in Vienna. In that conversation, they will advise you on the types of paper that could go well with a photo, or which frame could look good. I had my photos shipped to me and they were professionally and safely packed, and I really can't say much more than these prints are fantastic. So thank you so much. By the way, to demonstrate the different types of paper, they also sent me some extra prints on different papers. You can see each paper varies in texture and glossiness, so you can really get a good custom print of your work. If you do decide to print your work, you can use the code TEO10 until the 1st of October to get 10% off of your purchase. Thank you, Whitewall, for supporting my work. Then, on the next day, we had decided to go on a day trip to Osaka to meet a friend there who can show us the wonderful city of Osaka. Hikaru also introduced us to her sister, and together we began to explore the area. The 2 sisters seemed to know some spots.
Sometimes untold. Hope builds up as we grow old. Grab a rope, send me an extra hello. Your whisper said, "Don't."
They took us through a bunch of intriguing streets and then we arrived at a cute tiny cafe to enjoy some coffee and a toast.
アイスコーヒーキャンセルで、はい、
The place was so cool and of course I shot a couple photos.
After 1,000 miles of singing songs.
Here I was again keen on getting some shots of the locals. These first attempts aren't bad, but not really good either.
Promises are fleeting thoughts.
I love this photo, it's just a cool sisters photo I think.
Your whisper said, "Dawn or soft." Greeting morning's gentle touch.
Here we came to an area that was packed with people and I passed this place where many like to meet up and play a game against each other, but sadly I don't remember what game it was. I shot 2 photos of the interior which I think both turned out so cool. I'm really happy with these. I love all the action going on in the shot. There's so much happening yet the composition still feels structured and not overwhelming.
Your whisper said, "Dawn or soft." Greeting morning's gentle touch. Oh, what glorious day.
Here's another photograph of a local I was able to shoot. They gave me a big smile after shooting, which I appreciate, but I'm happy to have caught their neutral face in the picture.
Come on, 1, 2. Hey, stop, 참 무책임해. 왜 자꾸 들었다 놨다 해.
This is a bit of a random detail shot, but I think it's lovely. I was strongly drawn to this by the light, which makes the sign glow and the leaves light up too.
들어봐. 가뭄 같은 마음엔 뭐라도 단비가 돼요. 돼요. 무의미한 말에 자꾸 내 맘이 설레요. 그래요.
사이즈가 지금
By this time, Ryo had left us because she had to go to work, and another friend of Hikaru, Kenya, came to join us. Together, we came to Osaka's main station here, which is pretty impressive and a cool place to explore. Also, the lighting was beginning to look so good. Then we took a train to get to the Osaka castle to check that out. As we got off the train, I spotted this guy in a suit working on his laptop on one of the many chairs at the platform. I found this scene kind of funny, and so I shot this photo and I think it really worked out nicely. I love how big the space looks, and then there's the subject on the laptop. It just shows precisely what I wanted to capture. Here I spotted a group that I think was playing something on their phones. Here is the photograph, and I love how each subject has their own position, with one even standing on the rock. Also, the formal outfits just add something really cool to the photo, I find. I really love this shot. The low angle and silhouette look make for such a cool looking picture, and I find it neatly documents the atmosphere of the evening. The sun had set and it was slowly getting dark, and we were having a good time just shooting around Osaka Castle. Then, to end the day, we headed to the busy nightlife type area of Osaka to find some dinner and then shoot some more around Dotonbori before catching the train back to Kyoto. With so many people around, I decided to practice my courage again and photograph a lot of the people around here. I think this one turned out pretty cool. I love the outfits of the two in the center of the frame. Even though the composition is technically a bit of a mess, I still feel like this works pretty nicely. The next morning, we spent a little more time in Kyoto before taking the train to Tottori, which, by the way, is the least populated prefecture of Japan. For breakfast, we had found a cafe that we wanted to visit, and it was really nice. Before leaving, I asked the owner and the staff if I may take a portrait of them in the cafe, and that is how I shot this photo that I already showed you when showing you the prints. I really like how this one turned out, hence I got it printed. I love the brown look of the cafe and the overall atmosphere in there, and then adding the staff into the picture completes the photograph for me. A minor detail I love is how the right guy is looking to the left as if he saw something there. I don't know why, but it adds to the photograph's character in my opinion. So the last place in Kyoto we wanted to check out before going to Tottori was the Fushimi Inari Taisha, another hotspot of Kyoto. We didn't walk through the hundreds of torii, but we had fun exploring the place and then walking off into the nearby neighborhoods. This is just the interior of a shop that intrigued me with all its decorations. train we caught that took us to Tottori was really beautiful with this wooden design. I couldn't resist to get a couple shots. I really like this one that shows the whole interior. After arriving in Tottori, we checked in at the hotel and headed straight to the bus stop to catch a bus that would take us to what I think is the main attraction here in Tottori, the sand dunes. So here we are at Tottori's sand dunes. Up until we found out about this attraction in Tottori, I didn't know Japan had a site anything like this. It was a really fun change of environment. Wide open spaces like these, of course, make for some great opportunities to get some minimalistic shots like this one. I also really like one of these first photographs I shot of a guy just sitting on the bench taking in the view. There's a sense of solitude and melancholy mixed into the otherwise warm and fuzzy atmosphere of the photograph, which I think is quite cool. This shot turned out a bit weird, but also really nice somehow. I think the camera was a little confused by all the light in this scene, and so the subject is just a blur and some grain, but that still resulted in an overall interesting, super minimalistic shot that fully concentrates on just a couple shapes and colours. On the next day, we did something very special. I started the day with this photograph of a window I found at a bus stop with a plant pressed to it, which I thought had a very interesting look. On this day, we took a bus to Hokue, which is Gosho Aoyama's hometown. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll already know that I'm a fan of Gosho Aoyama's best-known work, Detective Conan. In this little town, Hokue, they've built all sorts of Detective Conan attractions and even a Gosho Aoyama museum. Tottori Airport is also known as Conan Airport because it's a fully functioning airport but completely themed after the series. I shot a couple photos on the commute, but apart from that, I just enjoyed my time in Hokue, where there was not that much to shoot actually, just a lot for a fan like me to take in. Later, we stopped by in another small town on the way back to Tottori. Here, we went for some lunch where I shot a couple more photos because I really enjoy documenting the interiors of Japan, which are so different to what we know from the West. This is a fairly random place for tourists to be. It's just a small town somewhere in between Hokue and Tottori, and I really enjoyed documenting this quieter and lesser known side of Japan, and I think I was able to get some good results. Then, on the next day, we were coming to the end of our trip. It was time to take the train that brought us to Tottori back again, but not to Osaka. Instead, we transferred to another route to get to Kurashiki. Kurashiki is known for its canals and old town, which I was very keen on photographing. The conditions were a bit unfortunate, but actually very photogenic. This is one of my favorite photos from the whole trip. I love the action going on here. I saw this guy trying to unpack his camera but having some difficulties, especially while balancing the umbrella. Just as a couple passed by, this other person on a bike with an umbrella in their right hand passed through and elegantly held up the umbrella to smoothly pass through the gap. I saw this coming and just set up a simple composition and shot the photo, and I remember exactly how excited I was. I was so hyped to see the developed photo, and I'm so happy that the final result is not a disappointment. This turned out splendid. Here we took shelter in a cafe and I was really enjoying the atmosphere and wanted to photograph it. The lighting, however, was pretty tough to work with, so the photos didn't turn out amazing, but I do still like this one a lot because of the scene it shows, and it still brings across the atmosphere nevertheless. This is the super cute entrance to a small okonomiyaki restaurant where we went for dinner. Inside, I shot a couple photos again, however, the lighting was really tough again, but good memories on film are good memories anyway. On the last day of this trip, we went to the neighboring city Okayama to check it out and then catch a Shinkansen in the evening to get back to Tokyo. I didn't shoot that intensively on this day, but towards the end, when we visited a park, I came across a really cool scene.
그대 미소에 난 취한 것 같아 자꾸만
I love this detail shot of all the koi fish wiggling on top of each other in the hopes to catch the next snack from the child that was feeding them. There's so much action and the colours are fantastic without going so far that they distract. And that is the end. It was a wonderful final trip during our time in Japan, and I'm so grateful for all the experiences I was able to have and the photography I was able to shoot. I really hope you enjoyed this little documentation of the trip and all the photography. If you're still watching, wow, big thank you for still being here, and I hope to see you again soon. Until then, goodbye.